Hello and welcome to EPG Pathshala. This is Professor G. Srinivas Reddy, Professor retired Public Administration, Kakti University, Warangal, Telangana State. Today we are going to learn about Kautilya and his major ideas on public administration. Perhaps it is a little unconventional to include Kautilya as an administrative thinker. Let me mention that the theories of administration or theories of public administration are basically born in the Western Hemisphere. The contributions have come from Germans, Americans, French people, Spanish, etc. and etc. And they largely reflect the administrative realities of the first world countries or advanced capitalist countries. And administrative theory is reckoned as something which has been contributed largely in the last century and a quarter. But the ideas and administration were there in the long past also. In fact, India is one country which is blessed with a very rich history and rich legacy. One of the important legacies of India is a masterpiece like Arthashastra written by Kautilya. In today's lecture, we will see Kautilya's contributions to administration in 5 different ways. First, we will try to understand who Kautilya was by having a look at his brief biodata. Second, we will try to know what is contained in Arthashastra, which is considered to be, I think, any student of social science in India who doesn't know about Arthashastra is not worth being a student of that particular social science, be it political science, economics, sociology, psychology, or whatever, public administration. So therefore, Arthashastra is a compulsory reading for all students of social sciences from India and all over the world. And this is the second part of the lecture. The third is about his statement about principles of administration. Of course, Kautilya would not have given the title principles of administration, but principles are those which are kind of maxims, which are kind of guide rules and all for anybody to follow to get proper results. So in that sense, there are certain principles of administration. We will see that in the third part of the lecture. Fourthly, we will make a comparison between Kautilya and Machiavelli. These two thinkers are often contrasted with each other. And finally, a kind of critical appraisal of Kautilya. Kautilya was also known as Chanakya and Vishnugupta. In fact, two alternative names that he has, Kautilya. No, Kautilya comes from Kutilatva. I think kind of sinister plans and all that. I think one doesn't know whether it is the name is a real name or some imputed name. But Chanakya also stands for something positive. Kautilya for some negative quality, and Chanakya means a very intelligent and witty character who steers everything safely to a good destination and all that. He was the prime minister of the Chandragupta Maurya, who was the founder of a vast empire. I think this was one of the earliest empires, well administered state, and there were many good ideas of administration without which such a massive state would not have been built. Kautilya is the author of the oldest, perhaps, of the textbooks in public administration, namely Arthashastra. Arthashastra is actually a treatise on political economy, by studying which you will understand the economic aspects conjointly with political aspects. The political economy doesn't see a clear distinction between economics and politics, and it tries to study them together. Arthashastra, the timing of Arthashastra, when it was written, perhaps is not so very clear, but it is assumed that the treatise was written between 300 BC and the 1st century AD. Now we come to the Arthashastra, the classic text of statecraft and perhaps by adoption we can say on public administration, uh, Arthashastra literally means the science of wealth. This text offers deep insights into politics, statecraft, and governance. One of the major ideas in this is Kautilya supports absolute monarchy. I think let me just spend a little time dilating on what a monarchy is. Mono means one, archy means rule, rule by one person. Absolute monarchy means all power shall be with the king or that one person. Kautilya was advocating absolute monarchy, concentration of all powers in the hands of the king. But of course, he was talking about advising the king to take counsel from his ministers and all. Second, it has 32 divisions and adhikaranas, and it has 413 maxims. Maxims are things which are truisms. So by studying Ardhashastra, you will get to know a lot of maxims of administration, social life, and all that. He talks about the science of wealth in three different ways. One is Arjana, Vardhana, second, and Rakshana. Arjana means earning or creation of wealth. The function of the state is to create wealth for the people so that the prosperity of the people is ensured. And creation of wealth is not the only function of the government. It should also uh, resort to Vardhana or the increase of the wealth. You create it, you also try to help grow the wealth so that you will have more for the needs of the people. And thirdly, the third important function of the state is the protection of the wealth. I think this is the function of the army, defense, and all that. They will be safekeeping the territories and warding of the intruders and rebuffing the invaders and some of these things. Arthashastra combines at least three major subjects, and they are philosophy, theology, and economics of the present times. Philosophy talks about ends of things, ultimate things, and all that. So he brings in this element in his discourse on the statecraft and governance. Secondly, theology. Theology is the study of religion. Kautilya's Arthashastra is also, it has something, I think, some bearing of the, the religious texts or the ideas from Hindu religion, ancient Hindu religion and classics. And finally, it also focuses on economic aspects, as we have just now seen. The function of the state is to create wealth, increase wealth, and protect the wealth. Next important contribution of Kautilya and contained in Arthashastra is his theory of Saptanga or Saptanga theory. Sapt means seven, Angas means organs. Kautilya talks about seven different and distinct organs of the state. I think this is a contrast with the modern conception of the state. Some of the political scientists would talk about four elements of the state or three branches of the government. But what Kautilya is talking is in a refreshing contrast with what has been said by some of the Western scholars. Now, the seven Angas, or the arms or wings or the organs of the state are: number one, Swami or the Swami. The second is Amatya. The third is Janapada. The fourth is Durga. The fifth is Kosha. The sixth is Danda. And the last is Mitra. So Swami, Amatya, Janapada, Durga, Kosha, Danda, and Mitra are the seven Angas of the state. He would see a kind of organic relationship between these things, and if only all of them are functioning well, there will be general well-being in the state and the country. Now we come to some specifics of the Saptanga theory. Coming to Swami, Swami is obviously the king. And the job of the king or the Swami is protect the first and the foremost anga or the organ of the state is the king, which Kautilya calls Swami. The duty of the Swami is to protect the people, nurture the people, and cause the welfare of the people. Welfare of the subjects is the chief function of the king. King's rule is justified by the welfare that he causes to the people. Perhaps here we have to think about the concept of welfare state, which is a modern concept. Welfare state theory says that taking care of the minimum well-being of all the people is the duty of the state. A state which takes responsibility for food, shelter, clothing, health, and some of these basic needs is nowadays called welfare state. I think the rudiments of welfare state are there in Kautilya's Ardhashastra, because he is saying that the chief function of the king is to take care of the welfare of the people. King was the fountainhead of all authority. These days, just to give a contrast between what Kautilya has envisaged and what we have today in place in India, we have three organs of the state like legislature, executive, and judiciary. And what Kautilya says is that all three organs of the state should culminate in the king. Of course, now symbolically, the president is head of the state. He has, on paper, all the powers legislative, executive, and judicial. He is head of all the three wings of the government, but he doesn't exercise these powers. So, what Kautilya was mentioning is that all authority flows from the king, whether it is legislative, executive, or judicial. The second important element of the state is danda. Danda is perhaps loosely can be said as administration of justice. The administration of justice is done by the king according to Dharma Shastras. Dharma Shastras are sacred laws. The laws which are largely religious. There may be little secular element too in them. So the king has to give judgments on the basis of scriptural laws or the sacred laws. But Kautilya did not stop with this. It's not only according to the sacred laws that the king has to give punishments or give his judgments. He should also consider, weigh the evidence for and against some crime. Similarly, customs also have to be seen before giving a judgment. Now, he was invoking something known as customary law. When a custom or something is followed perpetually over a long period of time, everybody thinks that it has the force of law, and they start respecting it, and they start behaving or acting according to the dictates of that particular custom. Kautilya says that custom is also important. King should be watchful of the customs. Perhaps he was thinking that if customs are violated and people may be restive and they may not like it. And the fourth element in danda is royal edicts. The kings those days used to make some proclamations as to what is dutiful, what is not dutiful, what are do's and what are do nots, and some of these things were put up on edicts, and the edicts are also important. I think the judgment danda should be in conformity with the edicts also. And he also recognized, this is one important thing, the value of secular law. While ago I said he has to give punishments or administer justice according to sacred laws. There are also secular laws. In the sense, Kautilya said reason should be the basis for all lawmaking. No law should be above reason. So this is, a secularistic tendency in what he was mentioning. In addition to the Swami or the king, the Danda, the third important element is Amatya, who is these days called as Prime Minister. And in addition to Prime Minister, Kautilya's Ardhashastra makes a mention of Commander of Army, Treasurer General, and Controller General, and they were all appointed by the king in consultation with the inner cabinet. Now, there was mention about royal absolutism, all power being in the hands of king. Kautilya was aware that when a king taking decisions all by oneself with his whims and fancies will not do good for the citizens and the country, and therefore he suggested that the advice or the decision should be tempered by the advice of the cabinet or the inner cabinet. The next important element in Saptanga theory is Janapada. Janapada means a settlement, large block of area, and somewhere there is a mention that some 800 villages make a Janapada. Janapada is a place where Jana or people live. Janapada is, we can understand what Janapada is, Jana and Pada. Now, this is the place where people live. And somewhere in the text, you get to mention that some 800 villages would make a Janapada. And basically, Janapada refers to people living in a particular territory. And these people are advised to be industrious and they should be followers of Dharma. So they say, we nowadays say that Dharma Rakshati Rakshita. So therefore, if you follow Dharma, everything will be fine. The next important element, organ of the state is Kosha. Kosha, roughly translated, would mean treasury in the modern sense. And Kosha collects revenue, perhaps it is in charge of coinage, and king, according to Ardhashastra, was entitled to some special heavy collections during times of war. It was considered legitimate for king to tax people heavily in times of war so that he can afford protection to the people. The chief sources of taxes or revenue were land revenue, customs duties, and fines. Farmers, traders, and artisans were the people from whom revenue was mostly collected. Now, I mentioned about Danda somewhere in passing. Danda also refers to military, and the military should be strong to protect the country. And it talks about 7 different kinds of soldiers, Ardhashastra is talking about. And they include hereditary soldiers, paid soldiers, soldiers of a friendly country, friendly ruler, Mitra soldiers, and soldiers of Amitra, the enemy. I think the country, when a country is taken over, conquered by the king, the soldiers of that country also become the soldiers of this country. So this is Amitra soldiers. And then Ottavika soldiers. Ottavika soldiers are soldiers from forest areas. And there are different other kinds of soldiers he makes mention of. And Ardhashastra says Senapati is the commander in chief, and Kautilya was operating in the framework of Varna Ashram Dharma. And there is a kind of veiled reference here. He was making a mention that the best choice for a Senapati is somebody who is born in a Kshatriya clan or community. He said that such people would make the best commanders in chief. Well, apart from these, Kautilya has also talked about some maxims of administration or public administration, which today perhaps he never used, as was mentioned earlier. The word principles of administration, we can somehow say that he had some principles of administration mentioned in his text. Now we shall see what these principles are. He emphasized on the principle of authority. Now, authority is very important. Unless authority is wielded, there will not be peace in society, there may be conflicts, and the state may be weak and all that. The second important principle is unity of command. In fact, when Kautilya says king or the Swami is the fountainhead of authority, says that all authority culminates in the persona of the king. So king wields all authority. So therefore, there should be unity of command. The third important principle you can find some reference to in Kautilya's Ardhashastra is decentralization. There used to be a strong local government, as per the Kautilya's text Ardhashastra, and in the empire that was built, the Pataliputra, some of these cities were well administered states, and there was a principle of decentralization. Kautilya emphasized on proper selection of the officials working in the royal court, and for this he has mentioned some important things to be considered. One is the technical competence, the ability to take decisions, decision making ability, communication skills, interpersonal skills, behavioral skills, and more importantly, character. It's very interesting to know that Kautilya has advocated a battery of tests to select officials to work in the royal court. I think there were a mention of so many kinds of tests which modern administration is not able to do. Nowadays, selection of the public servants is made on the basis of their information, ability to marshal information, memory, or maybe some analytical ability, and not so much on character. I think there were a lot of tests on character of the government servants or the royal nobles and the courtiers in the courts of asthanas of the kings and all that. There is a particular mention about so many tests to be conducted to assess the character of the person. We now come to some critical appraisal of Kautilya. Kautilya's Arthashastra is a masterpiece on statecraft, politics, administration, economics, and all that. I think this is the earliest of the texts on public administration. And unfortunately, in most of the Western literature on public administration, due mention of Kautilya's Arthashastra. Of course, there are some passing references, but due mention and detailed analysis is somewhere missing, and this should be made good by students of India. I think any Indian student is advised, including students of public administration, to seriously read Kautilya's Arthashastra for the value that it offers. And it is such a comprehensive test on statecraft and public administration. The modern texts of public administration focus attention on some particular aspects, and that's not a kind of treatment of root and branch. Just it's more a study of technicalities, the branch. Suppose you want to understand about a tree, you should understand about the root structure of this tree. So in his analysis of the Saptanga theory, he's talking about so many things. I think very wide canvas is made by Kautilya to enable the student to understand the proper character of administration. He was also personally responsible. Kautilya was not only one who has written an excellent treatise on statecraft and administration, but he has built a very powerful empire those days, a very massive empire. And the third important thing where we thought of making a contrast with Machiavelli. Machiavelli has written the book The Prince, and Kautilya has written the book Arthashastra. I think you find a lot of parallels between the two. And both of them believed in royal absolutism and the kind of ends justify means. Now Kautilya and Machiavelli both believed that if the end is good, your objective is good, you can use foul means also. Use all kinds of means. I think that we generally talk about Sam, Dhan, Ved, Dhand. So these are all the ways in which you can achieve your results. And in this, there are moral and immoral things. Now, Kautilya and Machiavelli, both of them said that king is justified in using unfair means if the objective of the king is fair. So if the objective is fair, the goals are fair, I think unfair means are also accepted. Now lastly, Kautilya was one thinker who could conceptualize about administration. I think he should be treated. I think it may be a moot point and some controversy may arise, but it may be useful to try arguing that Kautilya was the real father of public administration. And in saying this, I think it's not only a matter of national pride, but a very great book, a great treatise, which has escaped the attention of many people, will get more close attention if we really, at least in India, we start arguing that Kautilya was truly the father of public administration. Of course, the conditions of administration were a lot different those days. Now we are talking in the context of a welfare state, and state is responsible for minimum well-being of everybody in all the modern states. But even without using the term welfare state, and Kautilya was drawing the attention of the king and everybody, all the rulers, that the welfare is the chief objective of the king. I think he was a precursor to welfare state. I think modern public administration has to be located in the context of welfare state. I think what we are studying as public administration is nothing but what kind of administration we have or we should have in a welfare state. So for this, he has made a lot of contribution. I think before I close, I would just appeal to all the students to take a very serious note of this magnificent text, Ardhashastra, and they should get some important details of this by personal study. With this, we conclude our discussion on Kautilya and his ideas on Ardhashastra, his ideas relating to the principles of administration and his place in the among the thinkers of administration. Kautilya has an important place among thinkers of administration. Of course, this is an unconventional statement. The Western books on public administration do not include writings of Kautilya. This is an imbalance that needs to be set right. Thank you.